Guys have been honored with numerous awards, including several Junos and Dove Awards. The band Downhere is into their 9th year of ministry and just released their 4th studio album last week. That song was called My Last Amen from the new project. It is a pleasure to have Glenn Lavender from Downhere with us in studio at Faith FM today. Welcome, Glenn.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Good to have you here, and just raced in this afternoon on the 401. Didn't get stuck in any traffic, I hope.
No, it's a little bit slow, but it's I think it's the usual coming home from work crowd. So
this is the time of day, yeah. Well, 9 years of ministry for Downhere. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
That's wonderful. Now the band formed back in 1999, I understand.
That's right.
Martel and Jason Germain were roommates at Briarcrest Bible College out there in Saskatchewan. They added fellow Canadians Tyson Manning and Jeremy Thiessen initially, and you joined the group shortly thereafter, am I right?
Yeah, well, at Bible College in Saskatchewan, the guys basically were discovered by Word Records in Nashville. And from that point, they were offered a record deal. And after, I think, 9 months of finagling, they figured out the details and accepted and ended up moving to Nashville. And at that point, the original bass player, Tyson, stayed back in college. Basically, I think he wanted to finish up college and just didn't feel like this was where he wanted to head. So the guys came to Nashville with no bass player. And I played in another band at the time and just knew the guys because we both worked with World Vision a little bit as artists. And so anyway, I had met them, and it worked out for me to join the band and move down to Nashville and be a part of what they were doing.
And the rest is history, as they say. History.
Yeah, and been the same crew ever since.
Yeah. Now each of you have Canadian roots, as you mentioned. You're the only one still living here in Canada.
I'm the only one still here now, but all the guys are Canadian, and we all moved down in 2001. It's just I'm the only one who's come back, but they're all still there. But yeah, we're all very much Canadian and proud of it. And
you're local too.
Yeah. I'm just 10 minutes away from the station.
And you travel a lot back and forth to Nashville, and when you guys are out on tour, you're all over the place.
I do, yeah. Like, for instance, I just on Sunday flew home from Raleigh, North Carolina, and Thursday I'll fly to Nashville. Sunday I'll fly home from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Or actually Chicago, I guess it is.
But who's keeping track?
Yeah. It's always that's as much as I know. After that, I'm lost. So
who looks after all this for you? I mean, this is quite the schedule you're keeping.
You know, we're not big rock stars, so we do a lot of it. We do have a booking agency, and they take care of our when people call in looking to book us, they'll handle that, and then that gets handed over to our management, and they say yay or nay. And then once everything's on the calendar, we got to sort out on our own how we're getting there and that sort of thing. So,
yeah. Let's talk about life on the road for a second. I know you guys just kicked off your latest tour promoting the new album.
Yeah.
You mentioned you just got back and you're heading back out again in a few days. What's life like on the road? Most of us probably can't relate to that, but is it just the four of you that travel, the four guys? Or?
We travel with a bit more. There's 4 guys in the band, and we travel with our sound guy, basically, and his name's Dave. He's been with us since 2002, I think. So we've had him with us for a long time. Then besides that, we have World Vision representative, who is actually our drummer's wife.
Huh.
And we have somebody who helps out with merchandise, who in the past has been our sound guy's wife, but my sister has actually joined us now. So we keep things pretty close. But yeah, so there's, what's that mean? 7 of us, basically, traveling all the time. And depending on the tour, we spent the last few tours on a tour bus, and then this fall tour we decided to go back to the van and not spend all of our money on the tour. It gets expensive.
Yeah, buses can be costly, and there's a lot that can go wrong with a bus.
Well, between that and gas and the extra driver and all that kind of stuff, yeah. So we're trying to, I think the why we've lasted as long as we have is because what our old manager used to say is by keeping low to the ground. We're trying to live way below our means and not getting ahead of ourselves, and I think that allows us to continue with what we're doing. So.
That's good counsel for every one of us, regardless of what we do, I think.
It sure helps, yeah.
Glenn Lavender from Downhere is our guest this afternoon here on Homebound. Now, you mentioned about the fact that some of your families travel. I know you've got a young family, a fairly new baby, second child.
5 weeks old today. So.
Wow. Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, how do you balance those commitments, your family, with the busy life of a popular Christian band member. What's home life like for Glenn Lavender these days?
Well, when I'm home, see, the thing with being in a band and being on the road, I don't really have enough time to do any other job because no one's going to take me for 3 or 4 days and then say, see you for 2 weeks. And that just doesn't work well. So generally when I'm home, like my family has my full attention, and obviously there's stuff to do. I got to get caught up on mail and mow the lawn.
Radio interviews.
And I love being in my backyard, working on the garden and that kind of stuff. So there's stuff I'm doing, but when I'm home, I'm home. My family's kind of got me, and that's what we try to stick with. And the thing that gets difficult is I grew up in this area, so I've got a lot of friends here. And, when you're only home for 4 or 5 days, you need to devote most of that to your own family. And it gets really hard to see everybody you want to see. So I've got some really great friends, and I just haven't seen them in, 6 to 9 months, and it's, so that's a bit of a drag. But they're really understanding, and so that helps a lot.
That's interesting. It sounds like a challenge to balance it, but it also sounds like you're doing a pretty admirable job.
Well, we're trying anyway.
From down here is our guest today, and let's talk about the album, Glenn, the new album.
Yeah.
It's the 4th studio release for Down Here, I understand.
That's right.
Called The Ending is Beginning. Now, interesting title, Glenn. I think it kind of insinuates that maybe this is your last project.
No, not at all.
That's not what this is all about?
No. It took us a long time to sort out the title for this album. I don't know why, but in the past we found album titles real easily. This one took a lot of work. But we landed on Ending is Beginning, as opposed to The Ending is Beginning. It's sort of semantics. It gets confusing. Maybe we should have chosen another one for that reason. But yeah, it's called Ending is Beginning. And the reason we went with that is this album is an album about hope. And we feel what we've learned, I guess, as a band and as individuals, especially over the past few years, is in order for us to really get when we get to the end of ourselves, is what I'm trying to say. When we get to the end of ourselves, that's when we start new. That's a new beginning for us. We got to hit that bottom point where we're like, I can't do this on my own. There's no way I can do this. I need to reach out. And that. And when you get to that endings point is where you're really beginning.
Okay.
And I think we're Christ's followers, back when Christ was being brought to the cross and hung on the cross, we all know, I'm sure, that all these guys were thinking, what is going on here? This is all over. It's done. It's ended, And really, 3 days later, it was a brand new beginning.
Little did they know.
Yeah, and so that's the message of this whole album. It's this message of hope, and I think you'll find that whole endings, beginning type of theme throughout the album, sprinkled almost in every song.
Oh, wow, that's kind of neat. Now, when you guys hit the stage as a band, what's the goal for Down Here? What is it that drives you to leave your family for periods of time and minister in this way?
This song, I think the songs that we have written, we'd like to say they're sort of a soundtrack for authentic living, and what we mean when we're saying that's not just a nice soundbite, but these songs we get email stuff from people, and they're often saying, that song was exactly how I was feeling, and we want these songs to be adopted sort of as prayers for other people. A lot of the songs, when you look at them, read through the lyrics, you discover that they actually are prayers, and if you can adopt them to be your own, then that's awesome. And so when we go on stage, we want to deliver that message, and specifically now this ending is beginning, the hope message to the lyrics of our songs, and that people can go home and take these songs home with them and take them on as their own. That's one of the things. We have lots of goals when we're going on stage. Like I mentioned earlier, we do some work with World Vision, and we're tirelessly doing what we can, trying to advocate for these kids and people who really need us when we've got so much to offer here. And we have so much to offer here, and these guys, I think it's $35 a day here in Canada, or a month here in Canada. If we can send that off to World Vision, boy, it sure makes a huge impact between giving them water and education and immunizations and all that stuff. So we've got a lot of things that we're after when we go out, otherwise wouldn't be worth it for us.
Talk about other artists or bands, perhaps, that maybe have inspired you individually or perhaps collectively as Down Here. on your journey of 9 years in ministry?
I think musically we can be, you can trace some of the sounds of Down Here back to artists like Keith Green. You can sometimes hear in Mark's voice, who's our higher voice. And I think the message and artistry of Keith Green also is something that we like to emulate, not necessarily his sound, but what he said and how bold he was. We like to try and have some of that. Simon and Garfunkel, I'm going back in the 70s here for everybody, but the harmonies that those guys had, Jason and Mark are always trying to make sure that melody is the main thing and that the harmonies are very strong, because we have two really strong vocalists, and then when they're singing together, I think is really what creates our Down Here sound. And then when it comes to the Christian world, I think there's groups like Jars of Clay and Switchfoot who we like to look up to. They're such an artistic band. They write great songs. The music's good. The lyrics are great, and it's attainable by not just Christians. Like they don't water down their message, but at the same time, it's anybody can get it and they'll understand it. It's not like just using weird Christian terminology that no one else gets. And I think we really try hard to say the same old thing, but in a brand new way. That's the part of its job really is. You got to come at it from a different angle so that the listener can hopefully see something from a different light, because there's so many angles to even one verse in scripture. And I know when I'm reading the same verse over and over, 3 years later I'll read it again and it's like, wow, I didn't figure that out the last time I read it. I didn't get that from it. And so that's our job as artists.
And really that's one of the great things about Christian music is it's adding a freshness or newness to things that we already know, just bringing them to life and bringing them to light again.
Pulling out a new angle that we maybe never saw before.
And I like that. And, I know in our area there's a number of Christian artists and bands that are trying to make a go of it full time in the music industry. Do you have any encouragement or counsel for them from somebody who's been at a successful level in the industry for a number of years now?
I mean, you only give it to you straight. And I have to agree. I have to say it's true. We have been doing this at a successful level, but what that successful level means, I think, is a lot different than what a lot of people realize. Like my wife and I, when we had our son, we moved back to Canada from Nashville. We were there for 3 years and lived with my parents for 3 years, and mostly I was out of necessity. And so being a successful artist means that you don't necessarily have all this money coming in and you're buying a house and all that kind of stuff. That's not what it's about anyway. And I think most people realize that, but it's just a good reminder to tell them. But what we always say is bloom where you're planted. So if this is where you are, you got to serve where you are right now, and other opportunities as they come, take them. But mostly serve in the area where you are. Listen to other believers. So we have, people will sometimes send in demos to our record label, and it's obvious that they should not have a mic in front of their voice ever. And we can't help but think, like, where are this person's friends? Like, the friends need to tell you if you're not really doing something. If you want to encourage people, but at the same time, if it's not happening, it's not happening.
Honest encouragement.
Exactly. So talk to your friends. I mean, if they're being super encouraging, and keep up with it. If they think you should keep your day job, and keep your day job and enjoy the music still. I mean, it's not like you should do it, but maybe it's not full-time ministry type of thing for you. I don't know. Is that yeah, I don't want to be negative, but that's not very realistic. Yeah, it's not an easy life. It's not an easy go. It's a lot of fun when you get into it. And the people I'm surrounded by, I think have so enriched my life that I'll always look back on this time in my life as some of the best years. But so when you get there, it's great, but it's a tough go.
A good reality check. Glenn Lavender from Down Here with us on Faith FM this afternoon. It's 28 minutes after 5 o'clock, and you're homebound with Brad. Glenn, is there an area of discouragement that you found doing what you do? Are there so-called dry periods that you and the guys would go through when things just don't come as easily as they would other times?
The hardest thing is just being away from family and having our shows be an erratic spots on the calendar, you know. Well, because we have months where we just have to take what we can get, and that happens more often than we like. And on those months, it's like you'll have a show Tuesday and Friday, and then the following Monday, and so that means I'm leaving town, and I've got 2 or 3 days off, nothing to do, and I could be with my family, but I can't spend $500 or more for a return ticket to get back home. So those are, for me especially, those are the frustrating things. But yeah, there's things that are frustrating, but we really we got a fairly positive outlook in the band, so it's easy to kind of let after those things pass and just forget about them. But
well, let's go from the perhaps the discouraging side to the other side of it, just before we let you go here. Is there something that God has been speaking to you about recently that you could leave us with today? A word of encouragement, perhaps? That
this has really been almost 6 months, or maybe more, maybe 8 or 9 months now, that I feel like this message of, and it was actually from the last song you played of ours, A Better Way, but John 15:5, if you look that up, there's no greater love than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. And, you know, that's what I need to do every day. I get on the road with these guys. We're spending all of our time together in a van, and it's very difficult to always set your needs aside and your desires aside for the people around you. And to me, that giving up of yourself is losing your life. You know, you got to lay down your life, forget about yourself. You got to give it to your friends and put their desires and needs before yours, and I think you'll live a real blessed life.
That's a big part of Christianity, for sure. Well, this has been good, Glenn. It's been good to get to know you a little bit. And
you know, it's great to get to the local station. I was telling you earlier, it's been a great week for interviews for us in stateside especially, but it's kind of fun to just drive like 10 minutes from home and be at a Christian radio station. I'm so happy we've got Christian radio here, and thank you guys for doing what you're doing. We appreciate it, and I know all the listeners do.
Well, we appreciate bands like yourself, good Canadian content, as I say.
And con, yeah, great.
Betcha. The album is called Ending is Beginning. It is the 4th studio release from Canadian band Downhere. It features the current top 10 single, Here I Am, which we're going to hear in just a moment. That's getting lots of airplay from Christian stations everywhere, including right here on Faith FM. So, Glenn, thanks for taking time out of your schedule for coming in today.
Anytime, man. Yeah.
Listen, we certainly wish you and the guys continued success and God's richest blessings moving forward.
Great. Thank you, sir.
All right, back in a second as Homebound continues. We're going to hear from Downhere, and their current top 10 single, Here I Am, is next.